Welcome to Conlang Critic, the channel that hosts the show Conlang Critic. I'm Misali, and we're coming very close to the start of the third season, and I'd like to let you all know what to expect from it before it actually begins. So, as you might have heard, I'm trying my darndest to make an average of at least one big video per month for the foreseeable future. I started doing that last December with my third annual end-of-year joke mashup, Let's Get This 2018. Yes, I'm counting that as a big video. In January, I released the final episode of the second season of Conlang Critic, the Folkspraak review. That's the video where I formally announced what 12 languages will be covered in Conlang Critic Season 3. If you haven't seen that video, it's these ones. Don't worry, I'll come back to that. Then in February, I did what is currently my second longest video essay, Seximal Responses, which was a follow-up to my longest video essay, A Better Way to Count, as a direct response to the fact that the YouTube content recommendation algorithm really liked A Better Way to Count for some reason. And now it's March, and the video is, this. There was another thing I was gonna do for this month's big video as the last big video before starting Season 3, but there was a change of plans, and now that's being made by someone else who is more qualified than I am. Now, I know when I said monthly videos, some of you assumed that that meant monthly episodes of Conlang Critic, and are now disappointed that that's not what's actually been happening. That was absolutely a failure to communicate clearly on my end, and for that I apologize. Hopefully this video can help clear things up. Let's cut to the chase. What can you expect from Conlang Critic Season 3? The 12 languages that will be discussed are, in order, Dothraki, Novial, the Is language, Dursk, Sambasa, Sindarin, Polyespo, Galen, Lingua de Planeta, Viosa, Jack Eisenman's English, and Quenya. All 12 of these languages have been very heavily requested. If you want to request another language for me to review, keep in mind that at best I won't be able to get to it until Season 3 is over. Fortunately for you, if all goes well, Season 3 won't take nearly as long as Season 2 did. I mean, seriously, I announced the Folkspraak episode literally 700 days before it was uploaded. I will not let that happen again. Actually, hold on. You all know about how Conlang Critic is divided into seasons, right? I didn't really start calling them seasons until partway through Season 2, but that's absolutely how this show is structured. So, when this show first started, I was just trying to get my opinions out there. I had some thoughts about some conlangs that I wanted people to hear. And then, when people started actually watching my videos, they started suggesting languages I could talk about, and I just went ahead and did all of them. For a while, I was aiming to do a video about every requested language in order of when they were requested. Since only 100 people were watching, I didn't have any reason to consider repeat requests. I knew from the beginning that I would eventually do a video about Esperanto. It was one of the languages I had the most to say about. I also knew that I didn't want to review it right away. I had to wait until I was ready. I reasoned that I should wait until I had made about a dozen other reviews before tackling it. Shortly after finishing the Ladon episode, I made a post on Tumblr that outlined all the requests that I had gotten, and the order I would do them in. That is, all the requests with one exception. The post, which I would later call the small list, specifically avoided mentioning Esperanto, despite the fact that it was the most requested language at the time. After episode 10 were 2 blank spots, open for suggestions, and then a winking face. This is when I had decided that Conlang Critic would be arranged into seasons. This is also when I created the big list, a spreadsheet detailing every request I've ever gotten. After the 2 empty slots on the small list filled up, I started filling in the space after Esperanto. It was still a first-come, first-served sort of thing for several months, until I eventually decided that I should actually care about repeat requests. The system I came up with, which was super bad, was that whenever someone requested a language that was already on the big list, I would move it to be 1 episode earlier. This was the system I used to determine what episodes would come after I finished Season 1. And when the Toki Pona episode was released, that's the order I said they would be released in for Season 2. During Season 2, a lot changed. The channel got more popular. I started caring more about accuracy, and the upload rate slowed to a crawl. I made twice as many episodes of Conlang Critic in September 2016 as I made in the entirety of 2018. I just stopped being as passionate about making this show as I was when I started. I was making videos because I said I would, not because I wanted to. During this time, I changed the way the big list is structured, prioritizing number of requests above which request came first. It is for this reason that I will probably never do anything like the Wolflandic episode again. And then, during the months between the Inner Slavic and Folkspraak episodes, I made another change to how the big list functions. I decided that once I knew which 12 episodes had the most requests, I would handpick the order they went in within the season, ensuring that I wouldn't simply be reviewing more obscure languages as the season went on. Starting April, which I'm sure you've noticed is quite soon, I will begin to prioritize making episodes of Conlang Critic. And there will absolutely be 1 episode released in April and another released in June. This is still just a hobby and not my job, so I can't promise that I will be able to make a Conlang Critic episode every month, but I do have a mental list running of some planned topics for videos to fill the months between. These will be easier to make because they won't require as much research, and I'll be able to slowly write their scripts in parallel with Conlang Critic. I'm happy to announce that The first of these will be called W. I'm sure you can guess what it's about. Now then, what can you actually expect from the episodes themselves? In general, expect to see more depth. I will no longer be making episodes where the only aspect of a language I discuss in detail is the phonology. Specifically, this will involve closer examinations of each Conlang's grammar and vocabulary. While I will continue to not attempt to provide anything even close to comprehensive descriptions of the Conlangs I review, I will try to provide enough detail so that you can get a general sense of what each language is like. I will also be adding what is probably the most requested new feature: spoken samples. I'll officially be putting my mouth where my money is and providing actual examples of each language in action. These examples will in general just be quotes from things that have been written in the given Conlang, so expect to hear the languages spoken by me and, if available, spoken by actual speakers. The largest structural change in Season 3 is that there will be no more rankings. Yes, I know. The more time goes by, the less meaningful the rankings have become. Here's the last ranking I did, which was for the Folkspraak episode. Some of these are languages I literally haven't looked at since 2016. And when I do go back and look at a language I reviewed a long time ago, sometimes I'll realize that I disagree with my past self about how good it is. Okay, remember the Igaday episode? Back in 2016, I said that I liked Igaday more than Aoi, but that was during that super rushed first season of Conlang Critic, where I didn't do any research, so I completely missed how the parts of Igaday's vocabulary that aren't awkward in a funny way are things like ifilu and idachete. When this aspect of Igaday was later brought to my attention, I retroactively lowered its ranking, but for some reason couldn't bring myself to move it to the bad category? The fact that my opinion can and does change over time with the introduction of new information is the main thing that makes rankings more trouble than it's worth. On top of that, there's the whole issue with the Interlang-Artlang classification. As a phonology-obsessed teenager, that seemed like enough categories to avoid comparing giraffes and crystal meth, but as a phonology-obsessed 20-something, the problems with that system are super clear. There's a sense where Toki Pona has more in common with Ithquil than it does with Esperanto, but Toki Pona fits my completely arbitrary criteria to be considered international, which, for some reason, is presented as though it were the opposite of art. Yeah, I think that's about all I have for now. I'm gonna get back to work on the Dothraki episode. I would hate to keep you waiting. See you then.
Toki Pona or whatever it is, show me the bibliography. I'm an Esperantist, the language with the largest Conlang community.